Today is a good day because today we are going to be going back to the topic that caused me to become a commentary style YouTuber in the first place, and that being Elden Ring.
This game is so overrated! The fact that you have fanboys go crazy over this game!
But we're not going to be talking about Elden Ring itself in today's video, we're going to be talking about Elden Ring's DLC, and more specifically how a certain individual, a certain YouTuber by the name of darksydephil, or DSP as a lot of people call him, thinks it's an overpriced cash grab slash ripoff. Now if you don't know who darksydephil is, honestly I'm jealous of you, but I'll quickly go over. DSP is an internet lolcow, which is basically just a person that everyone shits on, and honestly he kinda deserves it. DSP used to be big back in the early days of YouTube, and people just slowly started to hate him because he will e-beg all the time, saying he's gonna lose his house if he doesn't make donation goals, despite the fact that if he doesn't make the goals, he still has his house, so he's lying about the donation money. And this e-begging thing isn't a once in a blue moon type of thing. He e-begs on every single fucking stream he does. I mean, there are hours long compilations out there of him just e-begging. But not only is this guy a notorious e-beggar, but he also acts like a complete man-child.
In violation of section 4.2.7 appropriate conduct agreement. What the fuck are you fucking talking about, you lame-brained pieces of dumb fucking shit?
But now that you know the man that we're going to be talking about in today's video, let's talk about what he had to say. So, recently Elden Ring revealed their DLC coming out in June, Shadow of the Erdtree, and Mr. Phil over here was not very impressed.
Some stuff, I don't want to spoil too much for those who don't want to be spoiled on the DLC. It shows various bosses of the DLC that look interesting. But the thing that really gets me, and I think everyone right now is scratching our heads about, okay? The DLC is $39.99.
Okay, I don't really see a problem here. From Software worked on their DLC for 2 years, and they think that is the appropriate price point to put on the DLC. I feel like if you're gonna sit here and claim that that's overpriced, you should wait and see how much content is actually in the DLC first before you go ahead and make that kind of judgment.
It's the most expensive DLC FromSoft has ever sold.
Okay, and it might have more content than any DLC that From Software has ever sold, and it might have better content than any DLC From Software has ever sold. The file size of this DLC is around 60 gigs. Which is not only larger than the base game of Elden Ring itself, but it's also larger in file size than Dark Souls 3 and its DLC combined, which is the last From Software game that got a DLC released for it. But he just conveniently manages to leave this information out because Elden Ring bad.
Okay? So, that being said, with that price tag on it, right? You have to believe it's going to be incredibly long.
Yes, because the only thing that matters when it comes to the DLC is the length of it. Honestly, I'd take a 15-hour DLC that's amazing over a 40-hour DLC that's mid as fuck any day of the week. But seriously, if previous Souls games are anything to go by, the DLC is almost always the best the game has to offer. The best of Dark Souls 1 came in the DLC. The best of Dark Souls 2 came in the DLC. The best of Bloodborne came in the DLC. The best of Dark Souls 3 also came in the DLC.
If the main game was $70 and was 80 to 100 hours long, obviously you would expect that a DLC that's $40 is going to probably be around 40 hours long. Now, you could be wrong. Maybe they're going to rip everybody off. Maybe because they took 2 years to make it and they've decided to beat it, to blow it up as much as they have, hype it up this much, maybe they're just gonna rip everybody off.
When has a From Software DLC ever been a ripoff in the past? Like I said before, the best every single Souls game has to offer is in the DLC. Most people will agree 2 of the best bosses in Dark Souls 1 are Manus and Artorias. They're both DLC bosses, they're both way higher quality than any other boss in the game, and they're both way more challenging than any other boss in the game. But not only do the DLCs add bosses bosses, they also add really cool areas. Like I remember the Uikel area in Dark Souls 1 was a really good area, and that was in the DLC. Let's jump over to Dark Souls 2 for a minute. Dark Souls 2, to me, was good because of the DLC. Honestly, I thought the base game was kinda mediocre, but the DLC was amazing. You had the cool areas like that sky lava, like prison-ish area. I don't remember what it's called, man. It's been a long time since I played through that game. And you had bosses like the Fume Knight, which is just so much higher quality than everything else in the game. And then we jump over to Bloodborne, and this is where the DLC gets really, really good. You had the objectively best bosses of Bloodborne. Fucking Ludwig, one of the best bosses in From Software history, was in the Bloodborne DLC. You had the Orphan of Kos, one of the other best bosses in From Software history, once again in the DLC. Lady Maria in the DLC. You had the Hunter's Nightmare, such a cool concept and such a crazy amazing location, once again in the DLC. You have the Fishing Hamlet in the DLC. You have all the cool weapons that the DLC added. I mean, Bloodborne's DLC was absolutely amazing. Now let's jump over to Dark Souls 3, which is the last Souls game to come out that had a DLC in it before Elden Ring. Dark Souls 3's DLC had the best bosses in the entire fucking franchise, hands down. The quality of everything in Dark Souls 3's DLC is leaps and bounds above that of the base game. Whether it be the amazing locations like the Ring City or the memorable bosses like Dark Eater Midir or Slave Knight Gale, everything in Dark Souls 3's DLC is just absolutely amazing and so much better than that in the base game. So when we have an Elden Ring DLC launching with a larger file size than the original base game, and we have these standards to go off of From Software's past DLCs, it's safe to say I don't think this DLC is going to be a ripoff at all. Also, you say that they've been hyping this DLC up. It's literally been like a year after the game's launch before they even announced they were making a DLC, and then another full year before they even announce when it's going to be coming out. Also, let's bring up the fact that Elden Ring took about 3 years to make, whereas the DLC for Elden Ring took about 2 years. That is a pretty good investment of time being put into this DLC. I mean, 2/3 of the amount of time that went into the entire game.
To overcharge, I don't know, but I'll tell you this, if you buy that sucker and you beat it in 10 hours, people are gonna be pissed as shit. Like, are you out of your fucking minds? You charge just $40 for 10 hours of content, right? And that's the thing, like typical DLCs for FromSoft games clock in around 10 hours long.
Yes, but once again, none of these other games have a DLC with a file size this big, as well as none of the DLCs for past Souls games are as expensive as this one, so it's safe to say that this DLC will be much larger than the DLCs of past Souls games.
Right? Take a look at the expansions for Dark Souls 2 or Dark Souls 3. They're not that lengthy. They're good, but they're not that lengthy. Typically, they've gone for around $20.
Like I said before, given the fact that this DLC is more expensive and has a larger file size than any other DLC ever released, I mean, it's pretty safe to say it's going to be a longer DLC than those of the past.
Okay? Now also, they're selling a special edition of the game that includes the original Elden Ring, also packaged with the DLC, and that's going to sell for $79.99.
And this is nothing new. If you remember Dark Souls 2, Dark Souls 2 came out around 2014. Then around 2015, another version of Dark Souls 2 came out, which was called Scholar of the First Sin, which was basically Dark Souls 2 bundled with all of its DLC.
Okay, so that's $80 for the complete package of Elden Ring.
Yeah, and this is a pretty basic business practice. I mean, as someone who has a business degree, you have a business degree. You should know this. There are so many games out there that do this. I remember every single Call of Duty that used to come out with the Season Pass version, which was basically the game with all of its DLC, and it would cost more money. This is so fucking basic in the gaming industry.
But the weird part about that is, you can buy Elden Ring for like $10, $5.
Nice argument, Senator. Why don't you back it up with a source?
My source is that I made it the fuck up.
Yeah, I've never seen Elden Ring for $5 to $10. Cheapest I've ever seen it was like 25% off on Steam a couple times.
You can find discs of it everywhere online for cheap.
Yeah, this argument could be used for any single game ever released. I mean, people are gonna buy the game, realize they don't want it, and then sell it for dirt cheap. This happens with every single video game to ever release on disc. But I promise you, if you go into a Walmart, or you go on the Steam store, you go on the PlayStation store, you are not getting Elden Ring for $5 to $10. Hell, you likely aren't even getting Dark Souls 1, 2, 3, or Bloodborne for $5 to $10.
You know what I mean? So essentially, they're overinflating the value of the original game back to $40 just because you need the original game to access the DLC.
Well, no shit.
Wait, you mean to tell me that you need to own Elden Ring in order to play Elden Ring Shadow of the Erdtree? Who would have guessed, bro? What are you gonna tell me next? Grass is green, the sky is blue, water's wet? Also, they aren't overinflating the price back up to $40 because it was never cheaper than $40 to begin with. This whole idea of saying Elden Ring is only worth $5 to $10 because you can buy it off somebody for $5 to $10 is the dumbest shit in the world. There's probably somebody out there who bought a Series X or PS5 and they don't like it and they're selling it for $200. Does that mean the Series X or PS5 are only worth $200?
And I don't know if I agree with that.
Oh shit, From Software, you might want to rethink selling this DLC because the great and wise darksydephil doesn't agree with it.
I do feel like that's kind of a dirty trick. You know, if you're someone who played the original, good for you. You could just easily you go right back to the spot to access the DLC for free. But what about people who maybe now I'm jumping on? So now I gotta pay $80 to play the full game? Why? The original game is supposed to be like $5-10, and then if I bought the DLC, so this should be $35. You know what I'm saying?
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard.
There is no way you're serious, dude. The game is not worth $5 to $10. The game is worth $60. It's been worth $60 since launch. I don't know where you're getting this idea that it's $5 to $10 just because some random guy is willing to sell it to you for that amount. That guy willing to sell it to you for $5 to $10 is selling it to you under retail. The retail price is still $60.
So what they're doing, they are monstrously inflating.
They're not inflating the price though, because the base game of Elden Ring, the same one you were able to buy 2 years ago, is still the exact same price it was 2 years ago, even with the DLC coming out, and it will stay the same price it was 2 years ago, unless there's a Steam sale. The only way that you will have to pay more money than you did 2 years ago for Elden Ring is if you buy Elden Ring alongside with the DLC, which is extra content. There's no way he's seriously trying to argue this. I must be misinterpreting something. There's no way he's seriously trying to make this stupid of an argument.
I was curious how much they're selling it for on PSN right now, right?
I don't know how much it is on the PlayStation Store right now. It might be like 10% off or something, but I guarantee you it's not $5 to $10. I guarantee my life on that. I mean, Dark Souls 3 is still $79, so there's no way in hell Elden Ring is $5 to $10.
Which sucks, because I would have liked to see. I can tell you this, they already put them on here. It's already here. Holy shit, yeah. So, Shadow of the Erdtree Edition is $79.99, and they have a Shadow of the Erdtree Deluxe Edition, which also includes a digital art book and OST. That's it. It's just a digital art book and OST, and it's fucking $20 more. That's just crazy. It's already there.
Yak's surprised that the Shadow of the Erdtree is already up to buy. I mean, yeah, they put out a trailer for it. Why would they not put it up on the store after? They know people are going to be going out and looking to pre-order the product. I also find it funny how Yak's surprised that the version with an OST and a digital art book costs more money. Like, yeah, what do you think? They're gonna make it the exact same price?
The trailer came out like 5 hours ago. It's already fucking here. So anyway, yeah, so there you have it. I don't know how much they're maybe they're going to charge $40 again. Maybe they reinflated the cost of Elden Ring, because I know it wasn't $40.
You're right, Phil. It wasn't $40. It was $60.
Last time I checked, that thing was going for real cheap, and now it sounds like they're reinflating the value of the game again for no good reason besides they want extra money because the DLC's coming out. There are collector's editions as well. I saw one that has an actual statue of Mesmer the Impaler, right? And someone in chat was saying there's another higher end edition that has a fucking a helmet or something. A helmet. That's what I want to do. When I play Elden Ring, I want to wear the helmet.
You know, having listened to you for the past 10 minutes, I think you might need that helmet, buddy. Alright, peace.